Okay, what did I set out to do in running? What is my philosophy when it comes to running, and what would I do, most importantly, what would I do differently if I had my time again? Now, it's important to start with, I got into running pretty late. I got into running at 27. So when I got into running, I became so obsessed with it because I was a kid playing every sport you could possibly think of, mainly football, always wanted to be a footballer. Didn't have what it took to be a footballer, but naturally got into cross-country running and then track and field at high school and was pretty good at it. Naturally pretty good because of the endurance base that I'd built up as a footballer. And then I left it for a while, and then when I came back to it, I'd done some cycle touring, naturally got back into running, and then just had the bit between my teeth, wanted to be the best possible runner that I could be, and realized to do that, I needed to be full-time. So how do I be full-time as a runner? I need to get running to pay me in a certain way, and so that comes with sponsorship, race wins, endorsements, that kind of thing. And so how could I do that? At age 27, getting into it, I'm not going to be good for another sort of 2 to 3 years. It's going to be a commitment and a steep progress curve, but where is that going to lead me? So kind of getting to 30 and then turning professional, what does that look like? My philosophy as a kid was always, whether it's 1500 meter race or whether it was cross country, it was always, I wanted to, and football, it was like, how can I be the fastest possible runner today? So in a 1500 meter race, you're running around a track. A track is pretty much the same all over the world. At the time, I was running on grass tracks, cinder tracks, and tartan tracks. And wherever the school or the kind of the club would come from, and wherever we go to, it'd be more or less the same environment. It'd be a grass track, a cinder track, or a 400 meter tartan track, and it would be the same kind of 3 3/4 laps. And that seemed fair to me, that you could go pretty much anywhere in the world, but anywhere in the country, anywhere in England, and you could race people on the same type of service and see if you could be the fastest. And that's really important to where my kind of journey went with running. I feel exactly the same when it comes to marathon running. Yes, you might have a marathon that's a little bit different. There's 2,000 meters of elevation gain and drop. You've got quirky marathons now because everybody wants to kind of be involved, and it's still a marathon. The marathon of Snowdon Marathon, really interesting marathon. Those are different marathons. But when you've got a flat marathon, it doesn't matter whether you're running London, Berlin, Tokyo, New York, Boston a little bit different because it's a bit hilly, etc. But there's no major differences. So the fastest person on the day is the fastest runner. And the course record for London is the fastest runner on London course of all time. So it's a world record. The world record for a marathon, often set more recently at Berlin Marathon, is the fastest marathon ever run. It's that simple. So for me, getting into the sport later and then getting good sort of 28, 29, 30 years old, it meant for me it was limited on what I could do, and I needed to go further. So I needed to go into ultra running. Just by chance, my first kind of race, even before a marathon, was 50 kilometers uphill at Subito Pico Valletta, which is a road race. And so naturally, I kind of dipped into ultras, and then I looked at kind of like what my distance could be, and it was obvious to me that it could be 100K. And why that was important to me was because it was 100K on the road, flat. So whether you were running in Japan, in America, in the UK, anywhere in the world, and wherever you were from in the world, South Africa, really good 100K runners, Japanese, really good, American, really good, Germans, Swedish, British, really good. For me, it was a fair fight. So the fastest person to ever run 100K is the fastest 100K runner of all time. And that record would continue to be broken. So similar to the marathon, similar to 5K on the road, similar to 10K on the road, that's what really mattered to me. And so it was comparing apples with apples. And yeah, you might go to Japan and it might be a different type of humidity, a different heat. And therefore the Japanese or people who live in those conditions have got an advantage. That's going to happen in marathon running and in track running as well. And less so, the lesser the distance. So if you're running 10K in the track, Mexico City in 1976, I want to say, then you're at a disadvantage to people who live at altitude, of course. But my point is that you're running on tarmac. So if you're running 100K and you're in conditions that are kind of there or thereabouts and you're used to it, and the conditions might not affect you much, it's a fair fight. For me, the most obvious route at the time, even at 28, 29, 30, after I'd got into ultras and I'd done this kind of mountain uphill 50K run, trail running was getting big. And I'd seen kind of Kilian versus Anton Krupicka, and it kind of like really, like Western States really appealed. But for me, trail running, whether it was Western States or UTMB or the trail races that I was doing and winning in Spain at the time, because I'd moved to Granada, I'd moved to the course of Subida del Pico Veleta because I wanted to be the best. My first goal was, it was so obvious to me that I needed to be where all the good runners were. And I needed to put myself in an environment where I can grow as an athlete and get better as a runner as quickly as possible, because I don't have any time to waste. I'm behind. I started when I was 27, or restarted when I was 27, so I was behind, so I wanted to play catch up. I never had time off. I never would have like a month off every year to kind of let my body recuperate. I would come to Thailand eventually and then kind of have 3-4 months where I was doing a lot more on the bike than usual, but I was still ticking over with 80 kilometers per week. But when I was doing trail races in Spain, then it's a lesser standard without a doubt. So I would go to an 80K trail race and I'd win it because I was the best on the day. But I couldn't compare that time against somebody who was running an 80K race in America or running an 80K race anywhere else in the world, because you're not comparing apples with apples. And for me, to be able to win, and I was thinking about it, okay, look at the long-term plan, let's win Western States. To me, to win Western States, and this is a bad example because it's not so technical. The more technical and the more different a trail is, like I went to Black Canyons Ultra in Arizona a couple of years ago, and I never ran on anything like it. So there's no kind of preparation that I could have done except get into the course. And it's exactly the same for me for Western States. If I wanted to win Western States, I'd go and move onto the course, because I'm not the most talented athlete in the world. And so I need to get there and know the course inside out, not go off the course, not go the wrong way. Even Jim Walmsley, and basically living almost on the course for a long time, went off the course at 91 miles, I think it was, with 9 miles to go. So in order for me to do as well as I possibly can there, I need to go and live on the course, even more so. And Jim Walmsley did this at UTMB. In order to beat Kilian, in order to beat those runners that are running in the Pyrenees and the Alps, you need to go and move there and actually train on the same surfaces. So you cannot compare results. And I think the people that have kind of like Jim, winning UTMB and winning kind of Western States twice, setting a course record, these are amazing feats, without a doubt. And for me, Kilian is the greatest of all time in our sport, in trail running. But for me at the time as a purist, there was something beautiful about running 100K as fast as I possibly could, because my goals, when I got into ultra running, and as I said, I got to running 5K, I got to running 10K, and then all of a sudden I was invited to Subida del Pico Veleta. I wanted to win that race. That was my number one goal. So I knew if I moved to that and I do well in that race, I'm going to get better at running or in general. So I wanted to win that race. And then I wanted to become British champion in 100K. And I was able to do that in 2017. It's the same year that I won Subida del Pico Veleta for the first time. So that was like 2 major victories, 2 major life goals after 7 years training for these events. And then I wanted to run for Great Britain, so I did that. But I wanted to become world champion and break the world record for 100K. I haven't done those. I haven't done those things. I haven't been world champion. I haven't been. I set the world record, and that goal, that world record was 6 hours and 13. And I don't think the British record is very strong. Not taking anything away from Steve Way, who's got it. 6:19, 6:20 is an amazing time for 100K, but I don't think it's a strong record. And even Steve would have to hold his hands up and say, I think he maximized what his potential was. He's had a lot of injuries and stuff like that, but he maximized what his potential was. But he could have quite easily ran the world record. The world record was only 6:13. If you look at that as a percentage from 6:20 improvement to 6:13, it's not that big of a leap. So for me, the world record was easily in reach. Now the world record then went to 6:10 and then 6:9 and then now it's 6:05. So it's much faster than what it was. But if you speak to a lot of marathon runners, a lot of top marathon runners and a lot of 100K runners, they know deep down, and I know deep down, that if you get an Eliud Kipchoge or somebody who could do 2:02, 2:04, or even 2:08 for the marathon, and they really train for 100K, which means they need the incentive for breaking that world record and winning a big race, money, then you should be able to break 6 hours comfortably. And do I think I can break 6 hours for 100K? I don't think it's in me. And you've heard from these videos, I'm insanely optimistic. I go for something. For me, that's a step too far. But at the time, 6:13, well within my reach. Well within Steve Way's reach. And so, yeah, my philosophy was like, let's compare apples with apples. Who is the fastest runner ultra runner in the world, and that would have been over 100K, let's race it. And again, going back to the trail races that I've won in Spain, if I kind of look at, fast 70, 73, 74K races like Seville Marathon, Ultra Marathon, it's like you're running sub 4 minute kilometers. That's running for me. I always loved courses where you ran, because for me they were running races, not uphill hiking races or make sure your quads are conditioned because you're going to go around down super technical downhill. That for me wasn't, it took away the racing element. So yeah, that was my strategy. Did it pay off? Like, I would have been probably way more successful if I would have concentrated on certain ultras, but it would have meant, and I did this anyway. So I moved to Granada because I loved the city and I loved the lifestyle and I loved the training there. Most of all, I loved the training, the running and the cycling. Would I change anything? Absolutely not. If I was to advise you, if you're at the same level as me and if you're kind of like 20s, early 20s to late 20s, and you want to make a career out of this, and you're non-African, you're gonna have to go into trail racing, and you're gonna need to focus on winning the big European races or the big American races and get a name for yourself by constantly hitting the podium and winning those big races. Simple as that. But yeah, there's just a bit of insight into how my brain works, how it works, what I got, and what I'm still aiming for.